Hi friends, it's me, Michelle, coming to you today, as you can see from my car. Today, I thought I'd do something really fun and take you on a little field trip, a little excursion to Bookworm Paradise, which is my very favorite bookstore, where I go to buy new books and accessories. I wanted to bring you just to share the whole fun experience of shopping for new books and everything, all the accoutrements that go along with reading, which I consider this a totally separate hobby from reading books. Shopping for books is like just the most fun thing. I only allow myself to buy new books a few times a year, and it's something I plan for and budget for and save up for, particularly in the economic times we're living in right now. So I've been looking forward to this shopping spree. I don't know what I'll find. I have no pre-planned books that I want to buy. I'm just going to go in, look around, enjoy the whole full sensory experience that is the bookstore, and I'll show you what it's like for me to shop at my very favorite new bookstore. So let's go check it out. First things first, a little magpie action. Out the table they have right at the very front when you walk in. There's Elfie by Gregory Maguire. It's got a whole bunch of new releases as well as like $20 fairly new release books. So I always just, they catch you when you first walk in with that table. Then off to the right, we have some recent paperbacks and various titles that are familiar. Read The Alchemist. It wasn't for me. I didn't really care for that book, but this Dandelion one that I'm holding seemed pretty interesting. I might have to look for that one again, but yeah, so I kind of peruse around, see if anything catches my eye. Then I always go off to the right where they have rows of, well, they've got the table of Canadian authors there, and then they've got like pretty new, these are all book talk kind of YA romantasy type books. Then we're over here to the like various reading challenge books. We've got that one looks interesting, Little Rot. I always love that cover. Anyway, then back over here, they've got a nonfiction wall there and some staff picks, which I absolutely love. Love to see the staff favorite books because I've gotten some of my best recommendations from people who actually work in the bookstore. So I always look at that. There's Orbital by Samantha, I forget her name. Anyway, that one sounds interesting, but not right now. I'll save that for a later date. Maybe get it from my library. You're probably noticing a few of your favorites here as I'm looking around. And yeah, a lot of the hit books, a lot of brand new releases are on this kind of wall right here. But yeah, new hardbacks and paperbacks. So pretty interesting. There's lots of Frida McFadden as per usual. And so yeah, I always like to check this out before I proceed into the rest of the store. Look at that cover. I absolutely hate that Lord of the Flies cover. I think it's awful. As you can see by the look on my face there. Anyway, I wanted to show you and because to me, a book cover is so important when I'm shopping. It's what first catches your eye. So yeah, I love that cover by Water for Elephants by Sarah Gruen. And so then now I was making my way over to the discounted section here. All these books on this table are all like $8, $4. They're all under $10. And they had some pretty good titles. Like, I was pretty impressed by what I saw here. So I did end up grabbing a couple, which I will be sure to talk about at the end of this video. But yeah, just a great selection. And I guess they have to, get rid of a lot of stock eventually, but really impressed with the cheap brand new books that they had on display here. There's Emma Donoghue, all kinds, some titles I've never even heard of before. And no book shopping trip is complete without stopping by the candles. Look how cute. Book Hoarder, Fiction Addiction. Oh my gosh, they smelled so good and so cute, but too expensive for me. So maybe one day I'll be back. All right, I'm back home after my big shopping trip. Like I said, it's a rare indulgence. I do also like to support my local independent bookstores, but every now and then I like to go back to my favorite place and just, have the whole experience of being there because it's such a fun place. Like I said, as you've seen in my footage, they've got candles, they have pajamas, they've got snacks, they've got every kind of book you could possibly want. And I'm excited to show you what I got. So first up, I saw this cover and I thought, I wonder what this is about. It's a book called The Riveter by Jack Wang. I haven't seen anybody talk about this one on BookTube. This is a World War II story, and I've mentioned before, I'm kind of really particular about what kind of World War II stories I read just because there are so many of them, and it's like, I don't want to reread something that I already have read. So this one sounds really different. In this one, we are following the story of a Chinese immigrant in Vancouver who wants to enlist in the army and help the Canadian Army fight in the war. So he, for some reason, can't get into the army in Canada. Let's just see what it says here. Yeah, he wants to fight against fascism, but Chinese Canadians are barred from joining the army out of fear they might expect citizenship in return. So back in this time, they didn't allow a whole lot of people to join the army from other countries. So Josiah, that's our protagonist, he heads to the shipyard to find work as a riveter, fastening together the ribs and steel plates of the Victory ships. One night, Josiah spots Poppy singing at a Navy club. Despite their different backgrounds, they fall for each other instantly and begin a starry-eyed romance that lasts until the harsh reality of their situation is made clear. Determined to prove himself, Josiah takes a train to Toronto where he's finally given the chance to enlist. So, after volunteering for the 1st Canadian Parachute Battalion and jumping into Normandy on D-Day, he must fight through the battlefields of Europe to make it back to the woman he loves. This sounds like everything I love in a really poignant and well-done World War II story. Like, it's a specific time and place, a specific event that is at the center of it. And it sounds to me like It's got just enough romance, not too much. Like, that's not the central focus of the story, although it is a major part of this character's life. So I can't wait to see what happens to Josiah when he goes to jump out of a plane and help fight in the army. So yeah, this sounds like a really riveting book. Sorry, I like puns. I can't help myself sometimes. Next up, we have a book that caught my attention because of the cover, but this sounds really interesting. It's called The Silence in Her Eyes by Armando Lucas Correa. This one, we focus on a woman who has motion blindness. Like, she has very limited vision, and it's called achinotopsia, and she's had it since childhood. She walks around her Manhattan neighborhood with her white stick tapping in front. Most people assume she's blind, but the truth is that very little escapes her notice. So her other senses are heightened because of her disability there. So she has a quiet and orderly life with little human contact beyond her longtime housekeeper, her doctor, and her neighbors. That all changes when Alice moves into the apartment next door, and Leah can immediately sense the anxiety coming off of her. So this woman is really good at sensing people's energies, and they're, following her intuition. So something's telling her something's off with this new person. And yeah, one night, Leah can't help but overhear a violent fight that breaks out between her new neighbor and her husband. So I can't wait to see what happens. This is a thriller. Never heard of it before, and I haven't heard a whole lot of it on BookTube, so I'm really looking forward to this one. I love the premise of being in an apartment, and I lived in an apartment for many years, and I always was curious about my neighbors and who's just outside your door. Like, you've only got walls separating you, and in a lot of cases those walls are pretty thin. So to me, it's the perfect setting for a thriller, and yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. Hopefully it's good. This next book I have seen a lot about on BookTube. I think the first person I saw talking about it was Kayla over at Books and Lala. And this is The Haunting of Velkwood. Yeah, The Haunting of Velkwood by Gwendolyn Kist. This is a haunted house story. That's all I know about it. I don't know a whole lot. It's about it's called the Velkwood Vicinity, and it was the topic of occult theorists, tabloid one-hour documentaries, and even some pseudoscientific investigations as the block of homes disappeared behind a near impenetrable veil that only 3 survivors could enter, and only one has in the past 20 years, until now. So Talitha Velkwood has avoided anything to do with the tragedy that took her mother and 8-year-old sister. But when a new researcher tracks her down and offers to pay her to come back, Tabitha claims she's just doing it for the money. So yeah, it sounds like she goes back to check out this place where horrible things happened to her in the past. I'm not going to read too much of it. I'm just going to kind of go in based on that little knowledge that I have, and it sounds like one that I'm really going to enjoy because I like this kind of creepy, haunted or possessed story. Next up, I found the next 2 that are they're fiction. They're just short story collections. Like I mentioned, I recently got into short stories. Like back in 2023, I read a book that just kind of turned me onto it, and I haven't really picked up a whole lot since then. So I want to get it into more reading collections. And one book that's been on my radar for a while now, because it's been longlisted for the Giller Prize here, is called Peacocks of Instagram. I've seen a couple people talk about it, but it starts off with a story about a woman who makes jewelry and handicrafts out of peacock feathers and promotes herself on Instagram. And I think she has an Etsy shop. So we follow her in the first one, and then There's all kinds of different, really interesting sounding, character-driven little short stories. I don't know if they're all connected, but I'll just read you a little bit. It says, we've got an underappreciated coffee shop server haunted by her past, attracts thousands of followers on social media with her peacock jewelry. A hotel housekeeper up against a world of gender and class inequity quietly gets revenge on her chauvinist boss. I love the sound of that one. And a foster child orphaned in an accident directly attributable to climate change brings down her foster father, an oil lobbyist, in spectacular fashion. So this sounds just fantastic. It sounds like really interesting stories, and I can't wait to read this one. Peacocks of Instagram I should mention the author's name. And I always pick authors who I have a hard time pronouncing their names, so bear with me. But this one is by Deepa Rajagopalan. I believe that's how you say her last name. So yeah. Now, as you saw in the store, I put a little clip of this really cool discount area where they have books under $10, books under $15, 3 for $20, things like that. So the next short story collection I got for $8. And this is Douglas Coupland, and the book is Binge. Now, this is a collection of 60 short stories. Granted, they are all about 2 pages long, so they're super short, 2 or 3 pages long. I'm really curious because that's like, how do you even make a story in 2 or 3 pages? But somehow he manages to do it. I read this a little bit, and Douglas Coupland is an interesting guy. He's one of the very few people in the world who has a photographic memory, a legit photographic memory. I've heard that the actress Mary Lou Henner also has this. I forget what it's called, but they remember every single event that has ever happened to them in their entire lives, like it was yesterday. He tells a story of when he was a little kid and he goes to, you know how they sell those souvenir little fake license plates with your name on it? He happened to look at all the names, and his brain, he just memorized them, like from A to Z. So he's one of these rare, super rare gifted guys who can just like memorize every moment of their life. It sounds like both a blessing and a curse to me. Like, I don't know. In some ways it would be torturous. In some ways it would be extraordinarily fantastic. So I'm curious to read his take on different snapshots of life. He's a Gen Xer, and he mostly writes, in fact, his novel was called Generation X. I haven't read that, but this is his short story collection, and this one came out, you can tell it's a Gen X book because Courtney Cox is on the cover. Her dancing in the Bruce Springsteen video for Dancing in the Dark, the infamous first time, that's the first time I ever saw Courtney Cox, long before she was famous on Friends and Family Ties and such. So anyway, this book here came out in 2021. So yeah, I can't wait. I don't know very much about this, but it's supposed to be really funny, really witty, really sharp. And like it says on here, 60 short stories to make your brain feel different. I'm assuming to uplift you and make you feel happier. Because, well, at least I hope so. I'm sure that's what his intention is with this. So I'm looking forward to reading these super short 60 stories. I'll let you know what I think. If it's really good, you'll hear about it. And if it's extraordinarily bad, you'll probably also hear about it. So we'll see what happens. And now, my deal of the day, the grand finale, the book I was so excited to pick up, brand new, hardcover version, and one of my favorite authors. And it was only $8. And I'm talking about Machines Like Me by Ian McEwan. Now, I wasn't specifically going in looking for Ian McEwan books, although I do want to read more. I just thought I might pick them up from the thrift store so they're a little cheaper. But I mean, this is $8, so I couldn't resist. And I love Ian McEwan's writing. This story is about, I'm thinking, it's a sci-fi kind of like dystopian, futuristic story. I'll give you a brief little synopsis here. Machines Like Me takes place in an alternative London. Charlie, drifting through life and dodging full-time employment, is in love with Miranda, a bright student who lives with a terrible secret. When Charlie comes into money, he buys Adam, one of the first synthetic humans, and with Miranda's help, he designs Adam's personality. The near-perfect human that emerges is beautiful, strong, and clever. It isn't long before a love triangle forms, and these three beings confront a profound moral dilemma. So, in his submersive new novel, Ian McEwan asks whether a machine can understand the human heart or whether we are the ones who lack understanding. In this age we're living in with AI and everything else, I thought, this is really interesting to me. Like, what an interesting premise for a book. So yeah, Machines Like Me by Ian McEwan. Super cheap, I couldn't resist it. So there you have it. All the fruits of my 2-hour shopping trip today, which I enjoyed immensely. It was a splurge, but like I said, I do budget for it in advance. So yeah, it's pretty exciting, and it was super fun. So I just thought I'd take you along with me. And I hope you enjoyed it or liked coming along for the trip. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.